Hello. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Oh My Menses, Karinda's Corner edition, because we are in the Karinda's Corner chair. I decided it was easy to film with just bringing the chair forward to where I usually film rather than the hassle of moving the filming equipment to the Karinda's Corner. I'm enjoying this new view. Today is going to be an expanded share from an email that I sent out today to my email fam, my Karinda's Corner community. And it was a really vulnerable share, and one that I actually started writing probably a couple of months ago, but didn't actually finalize and send out until late last week. Going into some really nitty-gritty of my own health story for a couple of reasons. I mean, obviously there's the benefit that I'm sure you can relate to of how it feels to share something that you feel safe enough to share, that's like close to your heart, but sharing it in a way that feels safe, and like there's a part of you getting acknowledged that maybe needed some acknowledgement. So there's that, which I'm sure we can all appreciate. Then there's the aspect of, I don't think I get this misperception a lot, but a lot of the women that I work with and a lot of the people that follow me on Instagram don't know my history, like don't know the background that I came from and what my health history is like and what sort of things I've experienced on my own health journey. And especially when I'm helping people on their own health journeys, I want you to know, like, I've been to some like sucky places as well. And so often when I'm sharing advice or recommendations or hearing you out, it's not just coming from a place of, yeah, I've been to uni and I've like studied this stuff and I understand why my advice and recommendations are going to make sense and are going to work for you in your case. But it's also coming from a place of, yeah, damn, I've actually felt that. I've actually had a really similar experience. Oh yeah, I know what that kind of circumstance feels like. And like making her background appearance this time, I hope you're going to be okay in here, bub. You going to be okay in here? Yeah. This happens at like the same time of every episode. I need to go back and look at the timestamps of when Leica kind of like gets up from her comfortable position. Yeah, so also sharing from a place of like, yeah, I've experienced some really, really challenging things in my health and have had to navigate a lot of stuff, have had a lot of times where I've been so confused and frustrated by my body, and I've had to go to appointments and seek help from outside resources or seek support from other people, other professionals. I've had to try things, I've had to track, I've had to experiment, I've had to self-inquire, in order to understand what my body was demonstrating to me. And I mean, a lot of this is, especially because I was just a teenager and a child, hindsight is bloody 2020. So that's another reason I want to let you guys know that I've gone through some health stuff. And so my guidance with you in our one-on-one sessions is often coming from a place of lived experience as well as clinical expertise and specific training. And also the last reason is that, I've gotten through it. I've gotten through a lot, and I think I have some really useful tools that can help other people. So I want other people to feel seen and heard and less alone by reading my stories. I want people to understand that as a health professional, I have had health challenges. A health professional doesn't mean you have like perfect health, and it doesn't even mean that I'm currently healthy all the time, right? And from that, let's pivot into a cycle check-in before we dive into the vulnerable, watery depths of today's episode. I am cycle day 21, firmly planted in my luteal phase. Feeling that gear shift. If you listened to my recent episode about setting your sails with the wind, and I've also got another episode that's about to come out using a car analogy with the different cycle phases. So using the car analogy especially, I've crossed the threshold of ovulation, so I'm not just like accelerating down the freeway, pedal to the metal. I don't think I'm pumping the brakes yet, but I'm definitely slowing down and like lifting my foot off the accelerator. I'm definitely feeling my energy change. And also there's like flus going around at the moment. I've been around a lot of people that get sick. I'm not scared of getting sick because I know it's only like a reflection of my own immune system. And I kind of like getting occasionally sick to test and strengthen my immune system. That might sound a little bit weird to some people. And it's also not a guarantee that you'll get sick just because you're exposed to a sick person. A sick person doesn't even sound right. Just because you're exposed to someone that has like a contagious illness. So definitely feeling that slowing down, definitely feeling a little bit of like an inward, a turning inward, slowing down, and a bit more reflective and perceptive rather than just, being in the ovulatory energy of just like going with the flow of everything and like letting yourself be led and maybe sometimes letting yourself be carried away. I'm just very like, here I am, and here I am redirecting my energy inwards and like returning my energy to myself and staying grounded and present. And I really like this early luteal phase energy. It's a really nice sweet spot, I find. Probably not every time. Sometimes getting off the ovulation roller coaster is a little bit more challenging and whiplashy than this, but for now, I'm really grateful for this. And I also spent the day yesterday in a bit of a forest therapy. Shinrin-yoku, I think is the Japanese term for forest bathing. Had a beautiful guided session with my partner and some fam, and that felt really nice. So I think I'm actually just, probably because of a few different factors, feeling at a chiller pace today, and there's a calm heaviness in my body, and there's a bit of more of a mental slowness in my mind, and I'm grateful for that. So I turn the invitation to you now, and I invite you to check in with where you're at in your own cycle. If you do have a menstrual cycle, you might like to reflect on what day of your cycle you're on, what cycle phase you're in, based on when your last period was, or if you do cycle tracking and you track ovulation, that's fantastic. If you don't currently track your whole cycle and you're not sure about how to identify ovulation, I've created a free cycle tracking guide, which you can download. It's 25 pages and it's about holistically tracking your menstrual cycle beyond just the period and kind of breaking away from relying on algorithms from like cycle tracking apps and stuff like that. Just to get you in the flow of like understanding your own body and the signals and the signs that your body is always sending you and sharing with you, and what that says about your fertility and your hormones and where you are in your cycle, because there's a lot more to your cycle than just the period. So I invite you to download that if you'd like to get started on holistic cycle tracking. And maybe you're not menstruating and maybe you'd just like to reflect on the era of your life that you find yourself in. Maybe you are pregnant or postpartum, breastfeeding. Maybe you're currently on hormonal contraception or medication that is suppressing your menstrual cycle. Maybe you're peri or postmenopausal and you're navigating that really juicy, big transition. So yeah, sending love to wherever you're at and inviting you to take a moment to check in with yourself and give yourself grace based on wherever you find yourself. So let's get stuck in. So this is an email I wrote for the Karinda's Corner community. By downloading the cycle tracking guide, by the way, you will automatically join Karinda's Corner community and you can unsubscribe at any time. It's all free. So the email includes journal entries, screenshots of my journal entries, because I used digital journal apps as early as 2006. I think was my first entry when I was in year 5. So I would have been 10, 11 years old. That's also the same time that I was privileged and lucky enough to get my own personal laptop, which is probably why I opted for digital journaling. Definitely had some paper diaries before that. Definitely a lot of boys' names written in there and then violently crossed out, and then probably lots of curse words and insults thrown around in every direction. So I feel really lucky to have so much of my life on record as I've experienced it, because I'm sure you can appreciate how fuzzy memory can get in hindsight when you're reflecting on things from a long time ago. So it's really interesting to have in the moment account of these parts of my life. And it was one night, maybe a few months ago, where I just could not sleep. I think I was in my luteal phase, and luteal phase, I seem to have one night of perfect insomnia. It's like this perfect feeling of like tired but wired, and I just feel better if I just don't try to fight not being able to sleep, and I just kind of embrace it, and I just let myself stay up and write or reflect or sometimes scroll or watch something. It's not always productive. It's not always healthy. And this particular night, I was just like reflecting on my own health story, because I kept having this like common theme come back up about communicating with like past versions of myself and reflecting on what I could have said to them, what I could say to them from where I am now, like what I could say to my baby self, my 3-year-old self, my 5-year-old self, my 12-year-old self, and just reflecting on all these phases of my life and all the versions of Karinda that have existed, and just reflecting on all the different things she needed but didn't get at certain times, and all the different things she experienced without having the tools to navigate that experience smoothly. And I just think about how much I could offer her now. And so I'm often in some kind of dialogue with some kind of past version of myself. It was like 2 a.m. and I was about to fall asleep, and then I just kept thinking of these words and the style of media that I could like format these words to. And I was thinking about all the photos I could draw upon, and I was just like, oh my God, I just need to like start writing. And I hate like writing long form text on my phone. But I just locked in, and I was just bloody tapping away, and pretty much wrote, you know, a short essay on like my birth up until, you know, my mid-20s, just in terms of my health and the things that I experienced. And so I've still got that I think I'll do as some kind of like dedicated blog post for my private community. And so what we have today is just like an abridged version that I wrote in an email, focusing on like a key time in my life rather than looking at all of it. And so I'm going to just be reading directly from the email that I wrote, but there will be a lot of segues and there will be a lot of detours into explaining more context and going deeper into some stories. And we're just going to get a little bit messy with it, and I'm just going to let myself be led by my own words, and I'll speak to and share whatever feels relevant or good to share. And again, yeah, if you want to get these emails, I send them roughly weekly or fortnightly. You can just download the free cycle tracking guide, and that will pop you on the list. So, hey, strap yourself in, because this one gets vulnerable. Before I became a naturopath, I was probably a bit like you. I was a young woman confused by my body and symptoms. Frustrated at doctors saying everything looks fine or leaving appointments with unsatisfying answers. I can't tell you how many times I cried immediately after leaving the doctors. Exhausted from trying random supplements, diet trends, apps and advice. Don't just take my word for it, I've got receipts. My 2011 diary entries tell the story. And so we get into our first entry here. And this first entry is dated July 23rd, 2011, 14 years ago. Far out. Nearly 15 years ago. Oh my gosh. And I'm kind of just doing this like dot point summary of like how my life is at this moment. And this kind of like introduces some health themes. Got glandular fever in May. A girl assaulted me in June, a stranger. Many ups and downs with blank, one of my ex-boyfriend's names, Major. School is good. Currently my mouth is covered in ulcers, sore/infected throat for over a week now, spots/allergic reactions all over my arms and legs, chilblains on my feet. Now, I don't know if you remember, I think people still write like this, but when I say I'm saying H and then a whole bunch of N's and then G. So it's just like a frustrated sound that I'm typing out to my teenage self. Things are okay with blank at the moment. And then I give a bit more context, which is mostly redacted, about that relationship. I say Siebes negativity, and again, if you're not a millennial who was a teenager for the 2010s, Siebes was like a shorthand for CBF, which was a shorthand for can't be fucked. So I say Siebes negativity. I'm trying to be really healthy at the moment, waiting to get better, didn't do exams because of my glandular fever. I think that's about it. The blank bits were just the major ones, relationships, social-wise, aside from glandular fever. So yeah, now I'm just waiting to get better, trying to be as healthy as possible with all my probiotics and whatnot. And I love that, gosh, I love that 2011 Karinda, like, had the resources and knowledge to know that, like, probiotics could have been supportive for her. I wish I had that from a younger age, but so, because in 2011, I'm 15 turning 16. So at this point, I'm still just 15. And I delve into it a bit more, so let's read on. I had always struggled with my health. I was born sick, my parents having to manually drain my nose of mucus in the first week of my life. I had reflux and my mum stopped breastfeeding after 6 weeks. And I'll take the first of many detours here. So yeah, I really, really, really unfortunately had a family member visit me in the hospital when I was first born, in the first 2 days of my life. And they were sick with the flu. And they still came to visit me because 1995 was a different time. And you're a baby and your immune system isn't properly established because your gut microbiome isn't fully established. That's like taking place in real time at the time of birth. And so I got sick and I didn't have an immune system to fight it. I don't think there were any medications available to me because I was a newborn. And so for the first 2 weeks of my life, I was just so unwell with the symptoms of a cold or flu, but in a newborn baby that couldn't communicate what she was feeling and didn't understand what was happening. And because I couldn't take any medications for it, and obviously I couldn't blow my own nose, my parents had to use like tubes to manually drain the mucus from my nasal passages, and like they would have to like suck on these tubes to like get the mucus out. And I'm really grateful that they had the the willingness and whatever else is required to be able to do that. And no doubt that set the stage for some other issues that I experienced. My reflux, I'm sure a lot of mothers listening to this would understand if they've ever had a baby with reflux. So I pretty much threw up. I just threw up all the time. And so my mum stopped breastfeeding because that was the recommendation to help with my reflux. The recommendation was to go on to a formula, which would have been dairy-based or soy-based. Potentially. I think mum said that I did a soy one at least for a little while. And, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge how vital breastfeeding is. And, if we were in a different context in terms of a time long, long ago, it would be entirely normal to breastfeed your child well into infancy, certainly for at least the first year or couple of years of life, and then a little bit beyond that. I don't want it to be an oversight that breastfeeding was like cut short. And I know women are doing the best they can with the tools they have, but I think there could definitely be a lot more support, a lot more support in the mainstream healthcare system to help mothers nurse and breastfeed, because obviously there's stuff to troubleshoot and there can be, really real legitimate complications, but breastfeeding is so, so, so important. And I think the switch from breastfeeding to a formula that early on and being sick, after being born, definitely set up my immune system in a certain way, definitely primed my microbiome in a really specific way. And it's not nothing. And things that happen at our birth and in the first year of life and also in utero are determinants of our health. It might seem so impossible and unlikely because it's so long ago, but we have the data, we have the research that shows that, our microbiome is set and established and influenced by, I forget the first a certain amount of weeks or months of life after birth, but also determined by our mother's microbiome, her gut microbiome, the microbiome within her uterus. We also know there's a placental microbiome, and then obviously there's the vulvovaginal microbiome, which we pass through as we're being vaginally birthed. And all these things play a role in our immune system and the foundation that we're born with. So that's something that I think is really worthwhile acknowledging and really important to me. And I want you to be able to reflect on that in terms of your own birth story as well. If you know any specific facts about your birth story, how you were born and how you were breastfed or not, it really sets the stage for some things. And I think it can help, like if you do experience complex or challenging health, it's important to remember these factors that were just out of our control, because I think a lot of people still believe like their health is entirely their fault. And there's just so many factors beyond what we can control. So just take a moment to like reflect on your own birth, especially if you're navigating health challenges at the moment. It was as early as age 3 that I started getting annual recurring tonsillitis. And again, probably see my microbiome setup. That absolutely makes sense. Enter frequent antibiotic use, and hey presto, my microbiome was ... fucked. Coming into my primary school years, age 5 to 12, I had sugar cravings, anxiety, struggled with energy, had heaps of pimples and blackheads for my age, and napped every day after school. The diagnosis from those around me, Karinda's just lazy. Yeah, I definitely had some early blood sugar regulation issues, perhaps even caused by anxiety, because anxiety and stress can definitely change how quickly or slowly you process the sugar from the foods you're eating and how efficiently your cells are able to take up that sugar. And also how quickly your blood sugar drops is heavily influenced by stress. And I was an incredibly fussy eater, and I am almost positive that was also determined by some of the early experiences in life. I did not eat any fruit, and still to this day, I rarely eat fruit, to the point where I have like quite a strong reaction to it. I've come a long way since I was a child, but that's still a thing. And then since studying naturopathy and learning how certain fussy eating patterns and food avoidance patterns in childhood are associated with all sorts of nutritional deficiencies or I guess symptom patterns, and I just think of like all the things that could have been investigated or looked into. But alas, here we are. And had super oily skin, heaps of pimples. I think I had my first pimples from like 8 or 9, and like to the point where like people made fun of me for it in a way where it's like they didn't even know what they were making fun of. Like they just did not understand what was happening on my skin. So yeah, mum would take me to facials. Like I was a 9-year-old getting facials is just such a wild concept to me. And I was getting microdermabrasion on my face and my back and blackhead extractions and, trying so many different products and the Proactive and the, oh my God. So yeah, skin was a huge area for me. And yeah, just think about my energy management was just really, really shocking. But as we'll get into, like I just share a snapshot of some diet tracking that I did in my teen years. And it's like, I was not eating in a way that is conducive with like thriving health. And no one taught me how to eat properly. So I'm also sure that's a thing that a lot of you could relate to. So yeah, I took on this narrative about myself from a young age that I was just lazy. I wasn't sporty. I liked being outdoors, and I could definitely go for like bike rides and long walks and stuff, and visit new places. And, spent a lot of time in the Ovens River growing up. We went to Bright every year. That's in Victoria, Australia, for any international listeners or out of state listeners. So I love the outdoors, but yeah, I was not a sporty, active person. I would probably almost always choose sitting on the couch, unfortunately. And this is something that I've really had to unwire out of myself. And I finally sold my TV a month or so ago now. And that was a long time coming, because I'm very happy to say, I don't know, people are scared to use the word addiction. And it's not to be hyperbolic, but like, yeah, I'm very happy to say I was addicted. I just got to a point where I needed to be so honest about my habits. And I understand where they came from. It was encouraged to just, like, that's what you did. You ate dinner and then you sat on the couch with your family. And on weekends, you sat on the couch and watched TV for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and just kept going. And then you had a laptop, and then you could be on the laptop while the TV was playing in the background. And then you got a phone, and then you could be on the phone in the background of doing something on your laptop with the TV in the background. And, not a way that we were born to live, not a way that is conducive to what our DNA is like capable of and like programmed for and how we evolved. So yeah, I just had to acknowledge it as an addiction, to take it more seriously than I was taking it when I was just like, oh yeah, I like TV, love watching TV, love my TV shows, love sitting on the couch and procrastinating and not getting stuff done. And then when I started to investigate some of the historical patterns behind that, but then also the emotional patterns underpinning that, then that's when I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I see how this is serious. And it's okay that it's serious. And it also makes sense why this is something that I have clung onto as a comfort. It absolutely makes sense when I consider my history. And that's why I like going back into the past. Some people are really, really avoidant of reflecting on their past and reflecting on their life. And I love it. I'm a past dweller, sometimes to a fault, for sure. But I do a lot of work to stay anchored into the present as much as I can. But yeah, I do like to reflect on the past because there's so many lessons there. And that's where all the patterns are. And that's where I get the most like realizations in terms of self-understanding. And I love that I can give that gift to myself. Love that. If you're up for it, I mean, oh man, go through your life, go through every year of your life and just write down like the major events, the major challenges, the major transitions, just what you went through, what you were eating, if you can remember that, anytime you had to move house, or if anything happened with your parents, or significant things if in your family, or when people died, or when people were born around you, changing schools, I think it's just so fun to reflect on, and you can really start to see where certain emotional patterns begun, and especially if it's emotional patterns that you can acknowledge like aren't actually serving you and you want to do something about them. I think it's very hard to bypass any of your existing emotional patterns without first acknowledging and validating why they're there and where their origin story, essentially. So yeah, anyway, side note, highly recommend that. Needless to say, I went into puberty and teenage years with not a great foundation for my health. I started the pill at 14 because of said pimples and blackheads, less than a year after starting my natural menstrual cycle. Fast forward to 2011, I was just shy of 16, on the pill, and experiencing the hardest year of my health in my life so far. I was hospitalised for tonsillitis and glandular fever, missing a month of school in May. I was assaulted by a stranger in June, She grabbed me by the neck of my jumper and tried to push me onto a busy road while I was waiting for a bus to go home after school. My boyfriend at the time and another friend had to pull her off me. And then lucky it was within a couple of minutes that my bus pulled up and I got on. And then breaking up with said first long-term boyfriend in July. Talk about a rough winter. I was struggling with my immunity, acne, digestion, and nervous system constantly. Feeling guilty that I didn't have the energy to exercise. Feeling ashamed that I couldn't make better food choices. Beating myself up when my body was only trying to show me how deeply it needed love, nourishment, and gentle, targeted support. And I'm about to read an entry from Sunday, 28th of August, 2011. Nothing like a bloody winter's Sunday to get me in a emotional mood for journaling. So this is a part of a very long entry, and this is just a little excerpt, but it does get intense. So just a warning that I get intense in terms of a self-shame, beating myself up kind of way. I got some blood tests the other week. I don't even know what for. But yeah, I think either for my skin or throat or immune system, because ever since the glandular fever, I started getting these sores all over my body. I'm guessing they're just some kind of allergic reaction because my immunity is down. But Dr. Harrison just suggested I treat myself for scabies, which I did, but I can't tell if it's better or worse or the same. But yeah, got a doctor's appointment on Saturday, so I'll just get the results then. But anyways, yeah, I'm just so upset. I haven't exercised in ages. Ever since I've gotten sick, I'm just so unfit and stuff. It's such a shame because just before I got sick, I was really getting back into the exercising routine. And now I'm just back to shitty bang bang. And I think I have a psychological problem with food. Like I just eat shit when I'm bored, when I'm hungry, when I'm not, straight after a meal. It's crazy. I have to stop, but I don't know how. I'm sick of all this inconsistent weight gain, weight loss and shit. I can't stand it. I just want to be healthy. Mum constantly shoves the healthiness lectures down my throat and I wish I could just stop and change and be healthy, but I can't. I just can't, and it fucking kills me. I have no idea why I can't just be healthy. I mean, I do eat a lot more vegetables, but fruit I just don't eat. I imagine my insides like an abandoned warehouse or factory, all rusty and covered in soot and shit. It sickens me. I hate it. I need to get back into exercising at least. And a shout out to the lingo of 2011. And I'm just taking a pause there because I've read this to myself a lot while editing this email and when I was first looking over these journal entries a couple of months ago. But reading it out loud hits a little bit different, and I just want to I just really want to give it the space that this version of me is asking for. I mean, the poor love, glandular fever is no joke, and we know there are so many health complications associated with glandular fever, long-term stuff, big picture long-term stuff. It really takes a toll. And I had tonsillitis at the same time. I was hospitalized for it. The experience of the hospital was traumatizing. And I've got these itchy dots coming up all on my body that I now, looking back in hindsight, I think was absolutely a reaction to wheat and gluten that I was eating. And I'm frustrated that I'm not getting answers from the doctor. I don't even know what they did the blood test for. Oh my God, relate. And here I am beating myself up because I'm not exercising. Because 3 months ago, I was hospitalized for a viral infection and a bacterial infection. And I missed a month of school. And I broke up with my boyfriend the month before. And I didn't have a good foundation of health to start with. And I'm a stressed out teenager in year 10. And I'm beating myself up because I didn't have the energy to exercise. And I didn't care about the health benefits of exercise. I cared about how my body looked. I cared about, and this is just me riffing now, by the way, I'm not reading the email, but like, I thought I had to manage how big my body was getting as a 15-year-old, nearly a 16-year-old, on hormonal contraception in a developing fucking female body after an intense immune challenge. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. I love this version of me so much. I love her so much. But she is, oh my God, she's in Struggle Town. She's in the Struggle Town big time. And she thinks it's her fault. She says, I have to stop, but I don't know how. I can't stand it. I just want to change and be healthy, but I can't. I just can't. She really thinks it's her fault. And take fault out of it, and she still does not have the tools and support that she needs to understand what her body is doing. And she's not getting any of the right advice at this stage. She thinks exercising more is the answer. And I just wish she had the support that she needed. But as I've been reflecting a lot lately with different videos on Instagram and what I'm writing in my emails, like, we are nudged into this healthcare system that is not designed for complex illness. Emergency medicine and, treatable infections, it's great. But for complex multi-system illness, especially when there's a nervous system component and a strong nervous system component at that, they're just not cut out. Yeah. So I send a lot of love to that 2011 version of Karinda on the 28th of August. Fuck. Yeah. All right, I'll keep reading now. And then things get more interesting. After all that immune system burden and trauma, my body starts showing me it can't keep going with what I'm giving it. Rashes on my body, which a GP thought was scabies, mouth covered in ulcers, chilblains all over my feet and hands. No doctor explained to me what was causing my symptoms. They didn't even tell me what they were testing for. They couldn't explain my post-meal sugar cravings, my crashes, my fatigue. And as you can see from the August 2011 entry above, I'm noticing my relationship with food and my body. I am beating myself up. I'm angry at my body. I'm frustrated that I just can't change. And for what? I'm still a 15-year-old in a growing, developing female body, and I'm criticizing myself for being overweight or not being able to stay skinny. And then we go to the next screenshot, which is from Thursday, the 17th of May, 2012. So about a year later, I'm 16 at this point, I'm in year 11. And this snapshot is a glimpse into the extensive food and symptom tracking that I did for at least a couple of years as a teenager, especially in year 11 and year 12. And this was to try and understand what food was causing what. And this is where, like, when you have irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, this is where food tracking can get really frustrating, because it can seem like everything and anything is causing a flare-up. And equally, it can sometimes seem like nothing specifically is causing a flare-up, or that it's inconsistent with the food that you eat. Usually that's because there's just a bigger link with the nervous system, and it's about the state of your whole body while you're digesting and your whole digestive capacity, rather than specifically what you're putting in. Though, that said, what you're putting in absolutely makes a huge difference. And here's an example of what I was putting in. And this is for context. I go into it, but for context, I thought this was healthy, except for the parts that I'll audibly react to. 7 a.m. Sultana bran. 11:12. Poop at school. Softy. It's not great information, Karinda. If a client gave me this, I would be like, sorry, can you please explain what a softy stool is? I needed a Bristol stool chart. I didn't have a Bristol stool chart. 11:20. Peanut butter in whole grain sandwich. 103. Whole grain Sycar tar biscuits and a crunchy choc chip muesli bar. 4:10. More poop. Hard. Couple of plops, I think. 4:30. A health brownie. My mum used to make brownies out of black beans. An apple. Some barbecue shapes. And some Nutella. In brackets. Ugh, why? And a cup of Milo. And then 6:30. Chicken and spinach ravioli. Oh, shit. We got... okay, there's so much I want to say about this. I think I just need to keep reading the email because I do address the tracking. So I go on to say, and then the tracking begins. I have hundreds of entries like this, tracking my bowel movements and food intake every single day. Not only because I was concerned about my physique, but because I had debilitating digestive issues, which my friends would lovingly remember as my roller coaster pains, because I didn't know how to describe cramps. And not just tracking. There's shame sprinkled throughout. And then I quote myself saying, ugh, why? After the Nutella. I had shame for feeling starving after school, for eating a carb-filled brekkie and a disjointed carby afternoon. Let me tell you, that snapshot of what I ate that day, I thought it was healthy. Other than the Nutella, lol. But I thought that starting my day with sultana bread, moving on to peanut butter, whole grain crackers, and then more wheat-based food for dinner was healthy. Girl, it's not. If you grew up in a westernized culture, I can almost guarantee your brain was hijacked as to what healthy food actually is. All I'll say is it's not bread, and more bread. And I don't know, I can appreciate that might come across as severe, but like when you have done the level of study and clinical training that I have done in nutrition and functional nutrition and how the body works and nutritional biochemistry, like our food system is just totally hijacked by processed foods and branded foods. Like, remember when foods were just something that came out of the ground, or like someone in your family killed a chicken or a cow and you ate from the resources of the earth, and now how food is like trademarked or registered and it falls under the branch of like a massive company, like, and you know, there's all these subsidiaries and it's all just like, you know, everything's owned by Mars or West Farmers or I don't know. I can't recall any other brands off the top of my head. And food is marketing now. And I think it's so important to be aware of that because that processed shit is barely food. And I'm just going to be so harsh about this because like I can't keep pussyfooting around people's dietary choices when so many of us are in poor health and are really trying to support ourselves while just consistently making diet choices that actually aren't healthful or helpful to our body's physiology. Yeah, our bodies didn't evolve to digest this stuff. Sultana bran, processed. Peanut butter, processed. Whole grain sandwich bread, processed. Whole grain Sycar tar biscuits, processed. Crunchy choc chip muesli bar, processed. Health brownie, okay, made at home, great. An apple, best choice of the day. Some barbecue shapes, processed. Nutella, processed. A cup of Milo, processed. Chicken and spinach ravioli, probably processed, but not the worst thing. But I've got wheat, more wheat. I've got sugar in the breads, in the cereal, in the muesli bar, in the shapes, in the Nutella, in the cup of Milo. I just want people to know that, like, if this is anything what your diet looks like your body isn't going to be functioning optimally. And it is just as simple as that. And, you know, I had the kind of poor foundation of health where my body didn't have enough resources to be able to deal with this input in my younger years. And a lot of people could just eat this stuff when they were younger and their body didn't tell them that it was a problem. Their body had the resources and the reserves to deal with it and adapt and process it. But I see a lot of people getting to 20, 25, 30 and being like, oh, you know, maybe their diet is the same as when they were a teenager, and their body is finally starting to talk. And symptoms are finally starting to show themselves, or symptoms are getting worse. And I can't make that any more clear. Like, a diet like that is barely food. And I also want to acknowledge that, you know, I'm eating at 7 and then I'm eating again at 11 and then again at 1:30 and then again at 4:30 and then again at 6:30. So also, this is just a tidbit, if you experience digestive issues, that is too frequent. Your body's not getting a sufficient break. If you have histamine issues, and especially if your gut is very reactive, that is putting too much food in without giving your digestive system enough time to process what you've already put in. And so you can be more prone to histamine tolerance, because your body needs time to clear out the histamine from the food that we eat and from the histamine that's like produced within our gut. So I'm also not eating in any kind of like circadian optimized way. If I really did stop eating at 6:30 that night, that's good, because you want at least 3 hours from your last meal until your bedtime. So that's okay. But, you know, irregular bowel movements, bloating, heaps of gas throughout the day, like, it makes sense in context of what I'm eating. I'm also eating processed, like not properly cooked foods, no soup, stews, stir fries. Like, I had all those things sometimes. I'm just using this day as an example. But like, and then at the end of the day, I'm mixing like raw fruit with like a cooked brownie thing, and then like wheat-based processed foods, and then like dairy-based processed foods, Nutella, and then like a cup of milk. Like, it's chaos. And sometimes it can actually be so revealing. Like, when you track your diet in this way, it can be revealing, and it can actually be a relief, especially when my clients have me look at their food and diet diaries, and there's never any judgment. And if anything, I just get excited. Like, oh my God, dude, there's so many things I see here that can be improved. If you want to support your symptoms, if you want to reduce your symptoms and get closer to a state of optimal health, there's a lot we can do. You don't have to change anything if you don't want to. But if you've got concerns with your health and you're wondering what you can do, well, guess what? I've just found 5 things in your daily intake of food that could be optimized to reduce symptoms and improve your health overall and protect yourself in the long run. It's just a shame. It's just a shame that we're not taught, and I mean, probably our parents are also a little bit disconnected from real food. Again, depending on the culture that you grew up in, it's going to be so different for everyone. So I'm making a lot of generalizations here based on my own experience. But yeah, I feel like the generation before ours was already pretty disconnected from food, because that's like, what is it, like maybe the 60s, 70s, where like processed food really started to like rise up. And then, I mean, yeah, for our generation, I mean, forget about it. People's lunch boxes were fruit roll-ups, which were pretty much just sugar and fucking Go-Gurt, like chocolate-based yogurts and puddings and chips, probably with like heaps of vegetable oils and just crap, and bread, white bread. Take all the good stuff out of the bread, make it the high glycemic index so the kids are fucking bouncing off the walls. Like, we have so much work to do when it comes to healing our collective relationship with food. And yeah, I'll be the first to put my hand up and say my relationship with food and using food as medicine and returning food to its origins of what food originally was, I'm on that journey. I personally have a long way to go, but I'm here for it. Moving on. And then, okay, this last journal screenshot this is the 4th of August 2012, 13 years ago. It comes with a little photo of me in the top half of me in a bra, in the bathroom mirror. And the entry is titled Weight Loss Goals. And I say, the attached photo is my body on the 1st of August 2012 at 9:16 p.m. 20 seconds. I counted the full time. 9:16:20 p.m. In 11 more weeks after using the amazing Abs Solution, Sadie Nardini and other Vinyasa Yoga, and limiting, reducing and bettering my food intake, hopefully it will be a different picture. Whether it's just a couple of kilos or just looking more toned or more visual abdominal muscle, any positive change would be great to see. I'd be so happy. Very excited. I'm getting flashbacks to all the motivational ups and downs, and just being motivated for the wrong reasons. Again, it's 2012, I'm 16 years old. I'm in a developing female body. Still may have just come off hormonal contraception actually, so even more of a reason why I should be bloody easy on myself, because that's a whole hormonal journey. Like, your ovaries coming back online for the first time after being suppressed for several years, God. And in that photo I'm noticing I'm wearing this was definitely my spiritual era as well, which probably started in 2010, my anti-religion spiritualism era, where I decided to walk my own path and do my own research and decide things for myself. And yeah, I'm wearing this necklace that I think had the Buddha on it. And yeah, it was this metally, I don't know what metal it was made out of. God, I couldn't even tell you where I got it from. But I wore it all the time, and I saw that as my religion, and I think about how I was talking and relating to myself and reflecting on my body, and I'm just that's not Buddhist. That's not Buddhist, babe. But she was trying so hard, and she had the best intentions. She had the best intentions. But yeah, she just missed the mark. So I go through all of that in 2011, and then by 2012, I'm okay, and now I'm going to fix my body. And that's not the place you want to be coming from on a healing journey. So I say, and then in 2012, I'm still focused on losing weight and shaping up my body. Did I do anything to deal with the load on my nervous system? Nope. Did I give my immune system the nourishing support it needed after a huge viral load? Nope. Did anyone test me for nutritional deficiencies, ask about what/how I was eating and how I was looking after myself? Nope. Did anyone question what role the pill was playing in my health, my symptoms and my microbiome? Definitely not. And did I get my dream bod from a place of shame, force, hating on my body and pushing myself? Fuck no. So there's a bunch of stuff that didn't work. Tracking myself with shame, focusing on weight loss as my main goal, trying to take on others' motivation for health, like my mum's, as my own. Not at all focusing on where these issues actually started. Not acknowledging my upbringing, my wiring and my nervous system as crucial parts of my well-being, and in fact, the major keys of what would help me make positive change. Now, I am a very health conscious and health informed naturopath. How did things change? It started with a gut feeling to come off the pill when I was 16. Later, I think it was at the start of 2012. Then it grew into a heavy disappointment with the answers from my GPs about my health. So my dad took me to a naturopath for the first time. It was the first time that a health professional ever actually heard me, and then made my symptoms make sense in the context of my life, my diet, my energy, and my constitution. I shook that man's hand and nearly cried in the Mill Park chemist when I was 16. The fact that this is precisely the first thing that new patients reflect back to me as the thing that I offer them, feeling heard and validating their symptoms, is a massive pinch me moment. And it is. And that is something that all of my clients have in common within the first or second appointment. They're like, whoa, no other health professional or doctor has ever gone into as much depth as you do. And like, I actually feel like for the first time, I feel heard. And it wasn't until I was writing this email that I put two and two together, and I was like, oh shit, I wonder if that's something that I naturally offer people, because this was such an important piece for me in my own healing journey when I was still just a teenager. And on some subconscious level, I realized how important that being received in that way was, being seen and validated in that way was. And so I offer that to other people. And look, I don't know why it's happening or how it's happening, but it gets reflected to me over and over again across so many different types of women from so many different walks of life. And I'm so grateful that I get to offer that to people. That first appointment, when I first saw a naturopath, gave me the spark and insight that I needed to understand how my life creates my health. And I'll say that little part again. My life creates my health. It wasn't my body working against me. It was my body trying to show me what wasn't working and what needed to change. Of course, the long-term answers aren't as short and sweet as that. I've been on a 15-year journey, and you could say longer than 15 years because my health issues started earlier than 15 years ago. But I've been on at least a 15-year journey of learning about my health on a personal level, exploring spiritual studies, reading about natural remedies, teaching myself the fertility awareness method, tracking my menstrual cycles for 13 years, eventually getting my bachelor's degree in health science, graduating as a naturopath, and running my own business where I help women who are exactly where I was. It wasn't until I truly learned my cycle, and I mean really, really learned it, that things started to change for real in ways that were sustainable and consistent. I was able to notice the changes in my body. I was able to recognize her patterns and observe how she responded to everything: food, stress, sleep, environment, exercise, supplements, all of it. I remember the relief when someone understood my symptoms and assured me we could get to the bottom of it. I remember the first time I could confirm ovulation by tracking a couple of my simple biomarkers. And oh my God, the first time my period arrived without pain. The first time I felt emotionally stable in my premenstrual week. Holy moly. It felt like liberation, empowerment, freedom. And here's the thing about that freedom. It wasn't the result of a perfect supplement stack or a miracle protocol. It wasn't even the result of outsourcing my health to practitioners constantly. It was the result of understanding what my body was actually doing, and finally having the tools and support to work with her instead of against her. And what an absolute bloody treat that my life's work to date is centered around women like you who are probably feeling exactly how I did about their bodies, helping them understand what's going on, address the root of it in a way that's tailored to them, and offer them the tools to sustain their own health on their terms for the rest of their lives. When you asked me to be your naturopath on your health team, now you know, I don't just talk the talk. I didn't just study naturopathy from a place of perfect health and great self-esteem. I've been there. I've been in the shit of my health. I've done the hard yards. And now I walk the walk because I know what it's like to be in that spiral of pain, struggle, confusion, frustration about your body, thinking that it's broken. And I know that none of those feelings actually helped anything. And certainly none of the things that I tried in a manic fashion from any of those feelings or from the belief that something is wrong with me, anything that I tried from that belief was not helpful because it's not the truth and it's not the energy of healing. Having lived it, I know what actually does help. If you've listened this far, genuinely thank you. This is, as you can probably guess, and as I've told you, A huge share for me, coming from a deeply vulnerable and challenging part of my life. I am blessed to have been able to alchemize my pain into power. And I would, genuinely, love to help you with your own hormone health and healing. And I'll leave it there as far as the email goes. And I mostly just want to leave it at that share, but I have to tell you that the main way that I work with women, my program Harmonized Hormones, is a result of having experienced all those gaps in the medical system that I found myself in. Harmonized Hormones is a space, a journey, a supportive experience where the depth has been built into it. The space has been built into it. There is no rush. There's plenty of time for me to explain things. We do thorough investigations on your body so we know what's actually going on. I help you understand your symptoms. I help you decode the language of your body, because your body is always communicating to you. It's always got something to say to you. And no one taught me how to interpret my symptoms, not at least not for my upbringing anyway. I had to learn a lot for myself, and I had to experiment a lot with myself. And our bodies have so much to teach us, and I just wish I knew earlier that I could see my body as a teacher. I didn't even really know that was an option. And I'm so grateful to have that knowledge now, and I'm even more grateful to be able to share that knowledge with the women that I work with. So I'm really, really proud of Harmonized Hormones, not just from a business perspective, not just from I'm a naturopath perspective, but from a perspective of my past self, from a perspective of my teenage self, my child self. Those girls needed work like this, and I have created what I needed back then, and what I know a lot of women from all walks of life at all ages still need today. And this is why I'm here offering the work that I do and doing the stuff that I do. At the time of recording, Harmonized Hormones is at the lowest price that it will ever be. It's getting a massive upgrade, and the price is going up with it. But you can still experience a 3 or 6 month journey at their original prices until the 30th of April. So if you book in your first appointment anytime before the 30th of April, you will get the whole journey at the current lower price. Harmonized Hormones is 3 months of my continued dedicated support to you and your healing journey. I prescribe and whip up custom formulas for you. It includes functional hormone testing and my interpretation of any and all test results that you have. There's WhatsApp support between sessions. Everything is tailored to you, including treatment plans and all the tools that I provide for you. We have 6 sessions over 3 months or 12 sessions over 6 months. And it is the space where most of my clients get the biggest results, because the biggest change doesn't come from one appointment with one treatment plan and one massive overhaul. It usually comes from small, sustainable, incremental change over time. And it comes from having a first appointment, me giving you a couple of recommendations to start off with, you getting some time to play around with those. You get to ask me questions in between, message me on WhatsApp, and then we have another appointment and we get to see how your body responded, and we get to build upon that. And if you listen to my last episode where I take you behind the scenes of Harmonized Hormones, that is really juicy if you want to get a look at like how the consults actually work and all the kinds of questions that I ask. And I also walked you through my Wholistix body-wise assessment that I've developed, which is pretty much my specific style of naturopathic consultation, and all the things that I will explore across the 3 or 6 months with you in order to get to the root of what is causing your symptoms, to get to the root of whatever imbalance you are experiencing in your body, and to give you the tools to understand your own body in the long run and be able to decode your own symptoms, because my end goal is not that you rely on me for the rest of your life. The end goal is that you are able to sustain health for yourself. You are able to read your body's cues and make changes that are applicable to what your body is asking for in real time. That is the end goal. And the overall mission of Harmonized Hormones and Karinda Wholistix in general is to help more women understand the amazing power that their cyclical bodies hold and to help women reclaim that power. If you are interested in harmonized hormones, all you need to do to start is book in a free connection call. There's no obligations up front. It's just an opportunity for me to get to understand you, your health story, and what's going on in your world. And you can get to know me and see if I would be the right practitioner for this journey for you. So book your connection call before the 30th of April to lock in the current lowest prices ever for harmonized hormones. If any of this spoke to you, I would really love to hear from you in any format that you prefer. You can email me, you can message me on Instagram, you can leave a comment wherever you're watching or listening. And of course, if you are listening and maybe you're a previous listener, maybe you've been around the block before, maybe you love what I have to share, or maybe this is your first rodeo and you're like, oh, dang, I liked this. I would love to receive reviews and feedback. It just helps the podcast grow and it helps more women like you find answers like this and find my work who might be asking the same questions that you're asking and might be on the same journey with their health as you. May it be of benefit. Until then, thank you for listening. Really thank you for listening. And I will see you in the next episode. Take care. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Oh My Menses. If you have a special request of something you'd like to hear me talk about, or you have any questions that you want to ask me, please drop me a line at hello@karindaholistics.com.au. I would like to acknowledge the land and country on which I live, work and create. That of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I honour their connection to land, sea, flora and fauna across this country. I pay my respects to the elders of these communities, past, present and forthcoming.